A war that destroyed empires, claimed millions of lives, and forever changed the world. Now, imagine that this war was started by three men who weren't just kings, but cousins. This isn't fiction. This is the true story behind World War I and the betrayal that tore a family and the world apart. In the summer of 1914, Europe was a powder keg. The fuse was lit when three of the most powerful rulers in the world, King George V of Britain, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, and Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany, found themselves at war. But here's the kicker. They were family. These three men weren't just kings. They were the grandsons of Queen Victoria, three cousins who grew up together. And yet, in just a few short years, they would bring the world to its knees. But how did it happen? How did these three rulers, tied by blood, lead their nations into war? It all starts with one of them, Kaiser Wilhelm, a man with a grudge. Wilhelm grew up feeling like the outcast. While George and Nicholas shared a close bond, writing letters and calling each other Georgie and Nicky like best friends, Wilhelm was left on the sidelines, and that drove him mad. Wilhelm was obsessed with making Germany the most powerful empire in Europe, and he was willing to do anything to prove it, even betray his own family. While George and Nicholas tried to hold Europe together, Wilhelm was already preparing for war behind their backs, plotting, scheming, pulling the strings. He wanted to show the world and his cousins that Germany would dominate. Then, on June 28, 1914, a single bullet changed everything. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand set off a chain reaction that would engulf the world in war. But behind the scenes, something darker was happening. The cousins began exchanging secret telegrams, messages filled with desperation. George and Nicholas pleaded with Wilhelm to avoid war, but Wilhelm had other plans. He played the concerned cousin while pushing Europe closer to the brink. Tsar Nicholas was torn. His empire was fragile, teetering on the edge of revolution. He needed his cousins to help him, but Wilhelm, he wanted the war. And George, he was caught in the middle, watching helplessly as Europe spiraled out of control. In August 1914, the unthinkable happened. Germany declared war on Russia. Britain was forced to join the fight. The cousins were now enemies, leading their nations into one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. Millions would die, empires would collapse, and the world would never be the same. In the end, only one cousin would be left standing. Nicholas was overthrown in the Russian Revolution. His fate, a tragic execution, betrayed not just by his people, but by the world he once ruled. Wilhelm, who had once dreamed of dominating Europe, was forced to flee into exile. His empire crumbled, and he died in obscurity, haunted by the war he had helped ignite. And George, he was the last cousin standing, but even in victory, he was haunted by the betrayal of family, the millions of lives lost, and the world that was left in ruins. Three cousins, three empires, one war that changed everything. This was the war that should have never happened. A war that didn't just destroy countries, it destroyed families. If you found this story mind-blowing, hit that like button, subscribe,